Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Crystal Drakeford. I'm the Government Information Specialist and Communications and Outreach Lead with the Department of Veterans Affairs Privacy Service. It's Data Privacy Week and Identity Theft Awareness Week. And today I'll be asking experts from VA and the Federal Trade Commission critical questions about data privacy, cybersecurity, and identity theft prevention, and the importance of safeguarding veterans' personal data and managing their own privacy and security. Let me introduce our special guest. Ms. Terry Miller, Consumer Education Specialist with the Federal Trade Commission's Divisions of Consumer and Business Education. Mr. Joseph Forcade, Senior Technical Advisor with the Office of Information and Security. And Mr. Donfro Wiggins, Government Information Specialist and Privacy Officer with the Department of Veterans Affairs Veteran Benefits Administration. We are happy to have you to participate in today's discussion. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our first topic involving scams. So, Terry, let me start with you. Can you tell us what are the most popular scams lately and how do they work?
Well, Crystal, what we're finding is that imposter scams continue to be the most popular scam category that we see. In 2023, the FTC found that military consumers reported losing over $170 million to imposter scams specifically. And just to refresh, that's people who pretend to be someone that you know or a business that you're familiar with. And the goal of these scams really is to steal personal information, money, and sometimes both. So, what those look like, it could be an online shopping scam. So, you're on social media, you're scrolling, you see an ad that looks really fantastic, a low price for a really typically expensive item. And you click the link. You go to the website thinking it's the real business's website, but really it's a scam site. And the information that you input to purchase this item might just be handing over that financial and personal information to a scammer. Sometimes you do actually get something in the mail, but it may not be the item that you thought. One thing that we're also seeing related to mail also is brushing scams. So scammers will send an unexpected package. Maybe it's a ring or a luxury item or electronics, and you think it's a free gift. But really, what the scammer is doing is brushing up on their reviews. So they're using your personal information, your mailing information, your name to write fake reviews and boost their business, if you will. So really there you have to think if they have your address, they have some piece of your information, and that's not good. So you want to check for things like identity theft. So you want to be monitoring your credit. If you're getting anything in the mail that you're not expecting, know that someone potentially has your information. What we found too in recent years is that investment scams are big. And so, in 2023, service members reported losing a median of $7,000 to investment scams. I don't know about you, that's a lot of money to be losing. And so often those look like, what sounds like a good cryptocurrency investment. I worked with someone this year who was working with a service member who lost a $60,000 bonus, thinking that they were making a good cryptocurrency investment. These also can look like romance scams. So if you're connecting with someone on a dating app and they start mixing business and pleasure and saying, I love you, let me teach you how to invest, or send me money. Those could be scammers you're dealing with. And the last one I want to point out is just the blending of business imposters and government imposters. So sometimes you'll get an unexpected call from someone that says, maybe a routine thing. There's a weird charge on your account that you have with the business. But then they kind of up the ante with you and they may say, that your name is tied to things like money laundering or drug trafficking, and that they can help you if you give personal information or money up front. So sometimes they'll ask you to take money out of retirement. Sometimes they'll say that to protect your money, you can take that money out, put it somewhere else, aka send it to the scammer. So anytime you're seeing unexpected contact, unexpected packages, weird phone calls, problems with an account, the important thing to do is slow down to keep your money and your personal information safe.
In the aspects of the personal information, that PII piece, I'm going to turn it over to Dontrell just to kind of from a privacy perspective. Can you tell us what are those popular scams that you're recognizing in your line of business as the VBA privacy officer?
Sure, Crystal. What I'm seeing mostly from a privacy standpoint and protection of data is more like the predatory claims processors. There's certain entities and certain companies that will seek out veterans and attempt to charge them money to file a claim, or will attempt to get them to sign over a piece of their retroactive pay, or whatever their benefits may be. When in actuality, there's zero cost to a veteran to process a claim or to file a claim, and no one should be profiting off of that other than the veteran himself. So what we see from a privacy standpoint is just those predatory types of companies and individuals trying to take advantage of veterans that are just trying to get their compensation. That's what we're seeing mostly.
That is definitely a very scary risk. No one will want, as far as all the great work, all the service that you have done for your benefit to you to be taken away. That's a shame there. As far as for, just an extension to that, from the benefit aspect, what is it that the VBA privacy officers, how do they respond to that when veterans may report that?
So in any event that something of that nature is reported, we do hand that down to the Office of General Counsel, and to the Inspector General, and then they investigate, and at that point they take the appropriate actions toward those types of lenders. But I think from the biggest takeaway here is going to be education, and knowing that those types of entities are out there, and they really are preying on the veteran community. And we just want to educate as veterans as much as humanly possible to make sure that they're being vigilant and being aware that that's a possibility that could happen. I've seen it happen to several veterans personally, so I know it happens. So we just want to be vigilant. We want to look out for those things, and any event that you do need to file a claim or seek benefits, go to the local VA office, talk to a veteran service officer, talk to somebody that's an accredited claims or benefit person, accredited with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and their information is part under the Office of General Counsel, and they are accredited, and they are definitely qualified to help you in the claims process.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. Joe, over to you as far as on the cybersecurity and security shop. What are some things that you're recognizing?
So a lot of what we're seeing coming across is a lot more finishing attacks where they're going through not only through email but through the mobile devices, sending you text saying hello, click on this link, or different areas just to get into your devices. And we're seeing more and more of this coming through. Not only with that side, they're also starting to go in and do more spoofing of building out a fake site or areas to create a fake entity for you to actually go through and send you like regular emails trolling you saying that your antivirus or something is going obsolete and you need to log into this site to actually update it. Problem is, it usually takes you to the wrong site. And just like Terry was telling you, it's one of the rising imposter scams that's going on. And as soon as you go to update it, they're automatically getting into your device, they're locking it down, and they're trying to take your information. In the VA, we spend a lot of time fighting, finishing, and attacks on your access and the information back into our systems. So as we see this, one of the biggest factors we keep teaching, and we work with our local VSOs and our local offices out there, we tell them use the MFA, use the different areas we have. The VA is really switching to login.gov and using ID.me and these other factors to help prevent your information getting stolen out there to be used. Some of the other areas that we've been hearing a lot about is people using scanners to go in and steal the RIFD chips from your credit cards. They had a great episode in the local news that was showing where people were going through, walking through a mall and just testing and showing how many credit cards they could steal just because of where we're using the tap and pay and those other features that can actually be stolen through those scanning devices. This is also being used for access. If you have like access to your community or access to different areas of your house that you're doing through, say, a card or one of the other areas, they're using that for spoofing to actually go through, clone your card, and make access to the things. The other thing we're seeing is we're seeing a lot more deep fakes that are coming through where cyber professionals with these hackers in these different areas are creating deep fakes to actually go in an attack into your things where they'll go through and they'll intercept something and they might record your voice. And that's why you might get some of these phone calls that come through and say, hello. And then you go through and say, hello, how can I help you? Or something in that nature. And they're recording you. And then what they eventually do is if they can get enough information on you, they'll develop a deep fake. So then they can go in and do the answers back to reset your security protocols to get into your information or to steal that information. So as we're telling people, take that time, investigate when something comes to you. If it's not somebody you recognize or you understand, because they could be impostering somebody else calling you or texting you or even sending you that email. Take your time, go back, look at it, and then go in and approach that subject or approach that department. Trust me, no one from the IRS is going to call you like that. They're going to send you an official letter. They're going to ask you to come in, make an appointment with them, and contact them. So please don't ever believe when someone's trying to force you to give information over. You should.
Well, thank you. That was a lot of great information and unfortunately scary information at that. Just what you're saying, as far as someone walking in the mall and they're scanning your wallet, stealing that information. And you brought up the RFID. So is that usually like a wallet or protector that can
You
kind
can get a
of that?
protector or a wallet or other device that you can actually add into your wallet or around your cards that actually prevents that from actually sending signals out. So there's a lot of things you can actually add into your wallet and ways to protect your actual credit information from getting stolen as these people are walking through trying to scan. And don't be afraid. If something does happen to you, please understand it happens to everybody. I'll be honest, I'm a veteran and it's happened to me. And you just got to face it. You got to figure out how to solve it. Go back, work with the FTC, with Terry's group, reach out to their websites, call into their numbers, make sure you're working with them to get your stuff correct, and then learn from that mistake. We all make mistakes. We're human.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, that has happened to me too, unfortunately. So I'm well aware and familiar with that. And you brought up reporting. So I kind of want to turn it back over to Terry. FTC has numerous ways of reporting certain incidents and scams. Can you provide some detailed information about that?
Yeah, I mean, Joe makes a really good point that, there are things that you can do to help, protect yourself. The reality is that it does come up for a lot of us, the more we spend time online, especially. So, definitely reporting to the FTC is one of the first things you want to do, even if you just suspect that you have experienced a scam. So, you can report to us at reportfraud.ftc.gov. That does a couple of things. So for us, it gives us the data to say how prevalent, how widespread the problem is. I'm able to give the examples that I have today because we know what people are actually experiencing. They're telling us their stories. So it's helpful from a data standpoint to see how prevalent. It's helpful so that we have the stories to tell others. We also use our Consumer Sentinel network where you report to share it with other law enforcement agencies. It helps us to build cases against these, bad actors and deceptive businesses as well. So it's really helpful to report. Again, that's reportfraud.ftc.gov. And just to, kind of drive that home too, Joe said it can be overwhelming if you are suspecting that, you have been affected by a scam. And so after you report to us, you do get some advice on what to do next, depending on what happened. And if it is identity theft, we also have identitytheft.gov, which is where you report identity theft. So there's two resources there, but either way, you're getting a recovery plan and some actionable steps that you can take afterwards to hopefully recover the money. But if not, then at least protect yourself moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Reporting is definitely key. That's the first step. You definitely want to report it if you suspect it. If you're like, I think, but I don't necessarily have all the facts or all the evidence. Still put it down. Still call. Let someone know. And Dontrell, you spoke about as far as from the privacy aspect. Reporting things to the privacy officer, bringing it to their attention. And do you think it's definitely important for the veteran to have that direct relationship with their local privacy officer, kind of be engaged with them early on? Can you talk a little bit about that as far as the importance of knowing who your local privacy officer are within VBA, VHA? How does that work? Can you touch on that a little bit for me?
Sure. In a nutshell, the biggest thing is privacy officers are somewhat in the background, and what we like to do is tell veterans to be able to come to their the local VA regional office, or contact their veteran service officers, and that way they have the ability to reach out to us as VBA privacy officers, through our locator, and be able to track us down. At which point we'll investigate, and we'll do as much as we can. And even if it's not one of our issues per se, we'll find out who it needs to go to, and we'll get to the bottom of it. But the resources out there. Again, I have to advocate hard for being able to go to the regional offices, to the public contact teams are very aware of who we are, and can assist you and point you in the right direction, as well as those veteran service officers and the county veteran service officers that are all out there. They have the ability to reach out to us, and help, and let us help you in the unfortunate event that this does happen to one of our individuals in our veteran community.
Thank you. So let's transition over to another topic area, data breaches. With some of the recent data breaches affecting even many consumers, the consumer level, what are some of the steps at this point can those consumers or individuals be able to take from that point on in protecting themselves? And I'll start over with you, Terry, as far as from the FTC. What are some things that you all recognize?
Yeah, I mean, data breaches are happening, right? I got a message just this weekend, an email, that impacted my kids actually. So they can kind of come from different places. The programs kids are using at school or our credit card companies, they come from a lot of different places. And depending on what information has been compromised, there are steps that you can take to protect yourself. So, the first thing we always say is take your time and read that notice. So if you got it in the mail or in an email, read it carefully. Do some research on your own, right, Joe? So we want to make sure we're not clicking rogue links and things like that. Take your time, do some research, external research, looking up what it is. If they are actually offering credit monitoring as part of the recovery process, if that company is offering it, sign up for it. It doesn't hurt anything to have extra credit monitoring, especially if it's going to help in a specific situation where your information was compromised. The key here really is to act quickly. And, the FTC has steps you can take depending on what was compromised. So if it was your social security number, the advice really is going to be more geared toward checking your credit, freezing your credit so that no one can access your credit history and your credit report. If it's something like a bank account, it's going to be different steps, right? Contacting your bank, changing your account numbers and things like that. So take your time and definitely take advantage of any other credit monitoring that the company who's reporting the breach is offering to you.
Thank you. And you called out Joe here, so you knew you were next in line as far as over in the security show. I know this is something that's like always a topic discussed and within this area, unfortunately, but fortunately, because you're able to kind of stay on top of those advanced actors and wanting to be proactive, versus reactive. But unfortunately, we are on the reactive topic right now. So as far as individual receiving that letter, what are the steps that they should be able to take once they receive that information from that point on?
The first area we always tell them is make sure you sit there and you read. Just like Terry said, you got to read it. You got to take the time, look back at what it is, and understand what it actually consists of. And once you figure out that path, you need to reach out, go to FTC site, go through, work with your credit, your banks, even work with the IRS, call them up. So that way they lock down your tax returns. They lock down your information. Make sure you see if it actually bleeds into your family. If it bleeds into your family, make sure that you're actually monitoring their credit too, adding them to the possible support that you're going to be looking at to use. I've done it with my family. I monitor everything. I make sure I watch my kids. I watch all the way through. So that way, if there is anything that pops up on them, remember, those data breaches might have happened now, but they might not use that information for years. So also make sure that you're also changing your passwords. You're going through and periodically, at least 2-3 times a year, change your PIN numbers for your credit cards. or your different accounts. Or never keep the same account or password on anything. Use MFA, find different ways of doing it, but make sure you're always updating it, because you never want the same thing to be stagnant out there, because a lot of times they're gathering the data, because data is worth money to them. They're gathering the data, they're holding it for a time period, so then they can go back and use it later. And you'll see where they'll test it. They'll come up and they'll tap your credit card for $1 just to see if that credit card's even open. Or they'll come through and they'll send something just to see if they can get in your email. So please just make sure that the first step you take is read, see what is actually compromised, and see where it actually bleeds off to, and see if it actually connects over to other areas of your life, from kids to your other accounts to other parts, because we never think about that. We never think about the subscriptions we have out there and how they can actually go in and bill certain things back to us. So please make sure you change your passwords, use multi-factors to go in and log into different devices, and also periodically check your credit reports, as Terry was saying, but do it for extended time. A lot of times they only offer you credit monitoring for 1 year. Look at monitoring it for even longer periods, and try to do it for your entire family if you can.
Yeah, thank you. That was a lot of great information, and even pointing out, your kids. Sometimes you worry about your information so much because, of course, your information is out there. But it's like, oh wow, definitely want to take that time to read. What am I signing my child up for? What are the privacy protections, data protections involved with this? Which now turns me over to Dontrell on the privacy side, because data. You want to be able to know what information you're sharing, how is it being stored, how is it being secured. What are some of the things that you tell as far as for veterans, if you recognize or they're coming to you saying, hey, I've noticed this has happened to me, what should I do? I'm receiving this letter, should I believe this letter? What should I take from the privacy standpoint?
Well, thank you, Crystal. And from the privacy standpoint, I would really advocate for, as my colleagues mentioned, when you get those letters, when you get that information, read it, read it, read it. Be familiar with it, kind of figure out where it's coming from, validate it, of course. We do a lot of things in the scope of protection of data, whether it be personal identifying information, medical information, those types of things. We have a robust review system out there that looks at every one of those types of events. And if so, we offer credit monitoring for those events, any eventuality that there is or was a breach, as well as education. Huge advocate for education. The more our veterans know, the less of a target they can be. And again, being vigilant, watching out for those things, getting weird phone calls, weird emails. I'm susceptible to it as well, and it's really, really, really about being vigilant and watching out and seeing what's happening, and then being able to reach back for the resources that are provided for you through the VA. As you see, my colleagues are extremely knowledgeable in all aspects of this, and together we make a great team with the goal of protecting our veterans' data and protecting our veterans' compensation and benefits as well. Thank you, Crystal.
So we're going to be closing out soon, unfortunately, but I do want to give just a few extra minutes just to kind of have that closing statement, those closing points from each of you that we definitely want the veteran, the caregiver, family member, beneficiary, those who are involved within the veteran community, and just even extension, just the general public. What are some, I guess, that closing, what is that final thought or that final takeaway that you would want the veteran to know when it comes to securing their personal information? And I'll turn it over to Terry again first here to close us out with your final thought.
I mean, we've kind of said it throughout the conversation here, but it's worth repeating that slowing down and really understanding the ways that scammers try to reach you is really one of the best ways to protect yourself. And so that looks like not trusting your caller ID, knowing that spoofing, like Joe said, is a thing. And so scammers really can make a phone call look like it's coming from Navy Federal or USAA or, a company that you're familiar with. Knowing that a business and the government is not going to call you unexpectedly and require that you respond at that very moment. They're not going to demand payment from you, especially in ways that scammers do. So they're not going to demand that you pay for something with a gift card, with a wire transfer, through a payment app, with cryptocurrency, gold bars. These are not things that legit businesses and the government demand that you do. Also, just know that if something happens, it is okay. Act quickly to try to figure it out. And that's why we have agencies like the Federal Trade Commission. So report fraud.ftc.gov and identitytheft.gov if you are suspecting identity theft. You have resources, take your time, and don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone. If you're not sure, talk to someone, and they can help you kind of parse it out and figure out what your next steps need to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that information. And gold bars? Really, gold bars? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I will turn over to you, Joe.
My biggest thing is, like she said, take your time, read what's going on. Also, prevention is, we used to always say, was the best method to find the solution. But as we've started seeing that right now, it's more reactive because we can't prevent what we don't know that's coming. And they're getting so technologically advanced on how they're coming at us. And make sure you're sitting there communicating with your family members. For those out there that have elderly parents, reach out, find out what's going on in their life. Make sure that you even talk with your friends. We do it with our fellow veterans. We sit and meet with them. We see what's going on and make sure that they can communicate back with somebody, because communication with somebody is going to help them in understanding where they're going. And that way they're not ashamed of, if something did happen, they can understand that they got somebody to talk to that will help them. So just make sure you communicate, and prevention. Just try to get some prevention out.
Thank you, Joe. And I'll close out with Dontrell.
Thank you, Crystal. Again, my colleagues have mentioned so many valuable things and valuable assets that veterans can use to protect their data. Again, the biggest one for us from a VBA privacy standpoint is going to be using accredited representatives to assist you and to represent you in the claims and benefit process. Also, and most importantly, is the ability to reach back and use those entities and those resources to ensure that your data is protected, and gives us as a VBA privacy an opportunity to investigate and figure out, who these bad actors are. And my only parting thing is, no one should ask for payment to assist you in completing a compensation or benefits application. That is absolutely free to every veteran, and we provide services to assist in those things. So again, please, 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 please find an accredited representative to help you out in this claims process.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A lot of information was shared today, a lot of websites, numbers, things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and try to summarize it just to kind of emphasize some of the important reminders that were shared. First, only work with VA accredited representatives to help with filing your benefits claim. You can get connected with a VA accredited representative by going to va.gov. If you are missing a VA benefits payment, have identified discrepancy in your payment, or you find suspicious activity with your direct deposit account, you should contact the VA immediately by calling 1-800-827-1000. Also, if you believe you've witnessed a privacy violation or VA sensitive information, we want to know about it as soon as possible. Please report it as soon as possible by visiting department.va.gov/privacy, and then select the steps to report a privacy complaint link. This website has a lot of helpful information, privacy information, and resources, some of which Dontrell had shared in some of his responses earlier. You can also learn the latest tips and tricks to keep yourself secure in the VA Cybersecurity Spot. That website is digital.va.gov/cyber. There you will find also a toll-free VA identity theft hotline number. That number is operating from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. And that number is 1-855-578-5492. And if you spot or even suspect a scam, tell the FTC. You can also report it to the FTC. Terry had recognized a lot of great sites. Again, one being reportfraud.ftc.gov. Again, that site is reportfraud.ftc.gov. Once you tell your story, the FTC will be able to respond back and provide those next steps to you to help you protect yourself. And while the FTC can't always resolve your individual report, they do use a lot of reports to investigate and bring cases against fraud, scams, and bad business practices. And finally, you can keep up with some of the latest scams that are targeting people just like you and me. You'll be able to sign up at ftc.gov/consumer alerts. You're able to sign up to get messages delivered to your email inbox that provides ways to spot, avoid, and share those latest scams. So I want to take this time to thank our guests again for their time and their expertise on these wonderful and important topics, very important topics that we want to definitely be able to share with veterans and their loved ones. Again, it's Data Privacy Week, Identity Theft Awareness Week. So please be safe, be vigilant, and we look forward to collaborating with you all in the future. Thanks everyone for joining.